I say provocative and outrageous things in order to demonstrate that the American media isn't really interested in the truth.
I'm going with my instincts, I'm going with my guts, I'm going with who I am, my essence, with truth.
Now, you and I have something in common, which is that we blend social commentary, although we wouldn't perhaps put it like that, it's a bit too highfalutin for us, but we do blend social commentary and newsmaking with entertainment.
Yes.
But how would you describe what you do?
Well, I believe in my overall libertarian ideas, but then I'll play devil's advocate, I'll make jokes, and then the media, the corporate media kind of snips it out and says, oh, when you're being silly, you're serious, saying the left are the only group that are allowed to be comical.
Yeah, because I've found that when I'm being silly, they'll pretend that I was trying to be serious, and when I'm being serious, they'll say, you can't possibly have believed that. You must get people asking you that too, and I'm saying, well, if you want to know what I believe, read the book. You know, if you want to know what Alex believes, watch it.
Well, that's exactly what they do. They always edit things, they take them out of context, they never do real long-form interviews. Usually, whether it's for print or a TV show, if it's establishment, mainstream media, they'll interview you for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours just to pretend they talk to you. Then they'll edit pieces that weren't even
They might not even use any of the footage. In some cases, if it's too reasonable or it's too interesting, they just won't use it at all.
It's like Sean Hannity did an hour-long interview with retired Ted Koppel. They brought back out of retirement this year, and they edited it down to 70 seconds. And those 70 seconds were edited together.
And you can get people to say anything in an hour-long interview and edit it down together. I mean, we're going to be running this exactly as the conversation we have it, so people can actually see the conversation in context and can understand what we both mean.
Isn't that racist, though?
What?
If you don't edit something, and I'm being sarcastic.
Fair, unbiased, contextual journalism is probably racist.
Also known as hate.
Yeah, hate speech. Hate speech.
Homophobic.
Fair, allowing the subject to answer a question in full for themselves, in their own words, and not editing it down. Must be some kind of...
Well, the real form of no platforming is to just edit something to where it's non-recognizable, and you've killed the person's platform. You're pretending like you have a platform, but there's not a platform. Kind of like YouTube now says, we put your video into the phantom zone where no one can see it, no one can like it, no one can share it, but it still exists just in cyberspace where no one can see it.
Now, there seems to be a political dimension to this, because it doesn't happen uniformly across the spectrum. It seems to be conservatives and libertarians who get it particularly. Now, if you look to the left, you've got Jon Stewart, John Oliver, and you've got Bill Maher even, who's perhaps more substantial than the other two. Right. And these people are entertainers as well as social commentators, as well as newsbreakers in some cases. But they're allowed license, they're allowed space.
They can talk about Trump being a cock holster. They can use the N-word, which I wouldn't use, period. And that's okay, because they're the anointed priest class.
Because they have the right politics.
Yes.
And that's basically, do you think that it is the politics that makes the difference?
Absolutely. It's a total one-sided deal where they're the high priest of knowledge. They can do anything they want. Just everybody else has to be blacklisted because, quite frankly, they don't want the competition. They can't compete with the big Americana, Western, Renaissance, Magna Carta, classical, British, European freedom model.
Like Western values.
Western values. They can't compete, so they have to pose like they're that, but then restrict everybody else.
Right. I think that's probably true. Now, I experienced some of the consequences of that hypocrisy myself in February, when comments I made. I mean, I was making jokes about something that happened to me when I was younger, speaking loosely, meaning cautiously. Under normal circumstances, if you had been, let's say, the victim of child abuse and you had spoken about it loosely and made jokes about it, it would be the ultimate get-out card if you're on the left. It would enable you to say, do, and be anything you wanted. But because I had the wrong politics, people went for the jugular, from the left and the right. And I felt like trying to explain to people the extraordinary lengths the media will go to take down people it considers dangerous, people it considers alternate power centers, if you like, is very difficult, because unless you're in the middle of it, like perhaps we are, in our own different ways, on the receiving end of this mendacity, it can be difficult to try to explain to people just how dishonest they are. But let's do it one way, which is, what kind of social consequences have you experienced for making the career choices you have? Because I sometimes feel like I've given up any hope of a social life. My friends are all on my payroll. Like, how is your life as a result of the kind of career you have, having what for the politically correct establishment would be very unpopular opinions?
Well, the rewards have been 100 times the negatives, but my ex-wife and her lawyers used basically edited down versions of what I'd said and what I'd done in the press to then misrepresent who I was as a father, and the press ganged up in the midst of that.
Complicit with it, I'm sure.
Oh, yes, to create a misrepresentation of what I'd actually said and done. And one example, and the judge said she almost did a mistrial because of this. One example was they had an edited tape from Joe Rogan's podcast, the most downloaded podcast in history, when I was on in February.
We both done it. It's a great show.
And I said, I don't agree with Trump saying you can grab a woman by her genitals because she's throwing herself on him. But I said, it's not rape like he's in the bushes jumping out.
Yeah.
And Joe and Eddie Bravo agreed. They said, Trump's wrong to say that. It's piggish, whatever. We wouldn't talk like that. We
Same as
daughters.
doing it.
But it's not rape because the women are throwing themselves on you. It's all just crude. We made the joke that if women said they're doing that to men, people say, oh, great girl, go after them. So we were basically looking at the different standards between feminine and male.
Yeah.
Well, they just edited, my dear ex-wife didn't do this, it was her lawyers. They just edited the front off the clip in the end where it sounded like I was legitimizing it.
Right, making excuses for it.
And they even said the clip was something else about marijuana legalization and then played that clip that wasn't in evidence. But then the media, even though I went and told the media, here's the full clip, I didn't do that, even though my lawyers corrected it, even though the judge said that wasn't in evidence and that's not the full clip, as we were able to play it, the media ran with it and said, Jones says it's okay for Trump to rape women. Well, we didn't even ever say that it was rape. So that's the type of things they do where it becomes because of your speech. You don't just get your book banned. You don't just get them saying things you didn't say and then trying to ruin you. They actually come and say, even though I didn't lose my children, the media now says I lost my children. Yeah. So there's an even bigger lie on top of it that I've lost my children, which isn't the case.
It's horrible. And it's a sort of shamelessness and cruelty with which they will be invasive and intrusive in a way I don't intend to be in this interview because I'm more interested in you than in your family life. But they'll come for anything and they'll do anything. It doesn't make any difference to them what the consequences might be to your life. What I want to ask. You have this extraordinary. I've never seen anything like this before in my life. The only other person I can think of that's like this is Trump. You just have this limitless reserve of energy. It's like you take a little 5-minute break and then you come back blazing. I mean, I don't mean any offense by this, but I'm a younger guy than you, and I couldn't do half the stuff you do. I've seen you on live streams at 3 a.m. and you're still going.
Oh, you got a lot of energy, my friend.
Well, I've got some, but you. Where does it come from? Where does this come from? Is it the injustice of the way that you're covered in the media? Is it the conviction with which you're covering the subjects that you're talking about? Where does this, because it seems like you just have this utterly limitless reserve, like you're powered by a infinite gravity engine or something. You just seem like a freight train somehow.
Well, we talked on the show earlier about Thomas Jefferson being classic liberal versus what we see as these control freak authoritarians, these fascists that call themselves anti-fascist. He talked about the animating contest of liberty. And so when you know what you've really said and you see these big, powerful institutions lying about you, there's something empowering. There were only a few times I got in a fight where I wasn't 100% in the right and I got my ass kicked. But every time it was some guy a lot bigger than me that attacked me for no reason, I won the fight. And so there's something about that David versus Goliath energy thing.
It's like defiance, you feel.
Exactly, defiance. And then there's also the exhilarating surge of the feeling of victory when you defeat the Goliaths. And then you've had the experience of going through the torture, going through the test, going through the gauntlet, and then having...
And then Trump gets elected.
And then having the victory. I mean, I guess it's dopamine or whatever in the brain, but it's larger than that. I don't like con artists and thugs and people that try to keep the general public in the dark. I get a thrill out of seeing people being alive, being informed in competition. And because somebody's smarter than I am or more successful, I don't feel bad. I feel like extension.
It doesn't scare you.
That's another human. Their victories are my victories. And as long as it's humanity competing in an open system for the greater good, but also celebrating individualism, it adds to the overall true collective. So I'm fighting the false collective, with a vision of the true human collective that is transcendent.
So that is classical liberalism as envisaged by J.S. Mill in On Liberty. That's exactly how the marketplace of ideas should work. It seems to me, the reason I ask that question is when I watch you, and it is one of the few shows that I watch when I'm not on it, which for somebody in our business, being as busy as we are, we don't really watch much in this.
You get burnt out on it.
Right, we don't watch much of other people's.
Well, thanks for putting up with me, because half of it's a train wreck.
No, I mean, it's not a train wreck. There's some stuff that I'm like, but I find it very, it's always entertaining. But the thing that I will say in your favor is you never, to me, come across as insincere. I believe that you mean what you say, and I believe that you mean what you're doing. And that's why I asked about where the energy reserves come from, because my hunch was that it's something a bit like me. You actually really believe this stuff, and you need to.
Exactly. I've got a stack of news we didn't get to today. I probably covered 50 stories or more.
So we spent an hour roasting Newsweek for their Madam Presidents.
And then I'll be exhausted at 6 or 7. I want to go see my family, but it's like, but there's crazy articles where they're admitting everything, and I want to go. These things get me upset.
It's like the whole world is wrong, and I've got to get through
exactly
all these different things.
I feel disempowered unless I can cover something and talk about it, and then somehow I'm almost like OCD about information. If I can talk about it and give my angle, then I don't have an anxiety. So a lot of it is.
I think a lot of your viewers are like that, and I think a lot of my readers are like that, and I think maybe it's a boy thing. It's something I've noticed about a lot of people who spend a lot of time on the internet, a lot of people who consume a lot of news. They have that
the autistic army, which doesn't mean. It's like you can't stop
there's something a bit Aspie about us, isn't there?
Aspergerish. You've got to like.
Someone somewhere on the internet is wrong, and I have to let them know about it. I have to fix it. I think it's fair. So you mentioned about when you're tired. Talk to me about when you're off camera. Do you have hobbies? Is there something that you do that's not related to work?
I like to go hiking. I like to go boating. I like to go see movies. I like to go out to eat. Obviously, I don't miss a lot of meals. I like to hang out with my friends. I kind of don't drink and then do drink. I like to drink alcohol. I like to basically read different art and literature. I like to look at art. I like to look at architecture. I like the catalogs. Even though I'm not buying a lot of furniture, I like to look at furniture catalogs.
Okay, we get the idea. So you're just like in your home life as you are on set. It's endless and limitless and freewheeling and full.
Yeah, I like botany. I got a bunch of plants.
Plants?
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. It's always heartening to me when I find somebody who's the same off screen as they are on, because there's a sort of authenticity and earnestness about you that I really like, because I know you mean it.
We couldn't misrepresent this train wreck.
Well, I kind of know what you mean, because I sort of feel the same about my college talks. So I'm kind of like, I catch myself being like, what are you doing? But I mean it, and people know I mean it, you know?
Even when we're joking, exactly. Like they'll take our interview we did live on air where I'm joking about I want to marry Glenn Beck and all this. It's all just a silly joke. They're going to say Jones, who makes it up that he's married to Beck. No, when I'm being serious about a piece of news about some peace deal, I'm being serious. But when I'm saying I want to marry Glenn Beck, it's a joke.
Yeah, and guess what, guys? That might be a joke. Let me ask. I don't want to intrude too much into your home life because I'm more interested in you as a human being. But just in terms of logistics, like, because your life must be difficult, given the decisions that you've made, the opinions that you have, the empire you've built around yourself, and it continues to grow. As far as I can see, it's growing at rates of knots. This place is huge and buzzing.
This is just one building. We got some other ones. But yeah, we're building a new studio. Come down and be in the new one.
It's huge, and I just wonder, just like the day-to-day stuff. What happens if you're at home and you want tacos? Who does that? Because you don't strike me as the kind of guy who's got a retinue of personal assistants. But you can't exactly walk down the street and just go to the takeout place, right? So do you have how does it work just being Alex Jones when you're not on screen?
I'd say I've got usually a nanny or an assistant until about 5 o'clock. But I would just go. There's a taco place right by the house, and we get that a lot.
Oh, you do get tacos.
Yeah, and then back during the campaign, half the workers were wearing Bernie Sanders shirts. But then I noticed that a lot of them actually liked Trump too. They were just anti-Jeb Bush, anti-Hillary. And so a few of them, would argue with me, but they weren't really mad until Trump won. And then a few of them kind of got in my face when I was getting tacos. And yeah, for every 100 people that shake my hand, and it's like every third or fourth person will shake my hand, there will be somebody who just goes, F you Russian spy, or F you KKK, and you're just like, it's like that person's mentally ill. It's kind of like they're a victim of propaganda. It's kind of like I'm driving up to a red light and there's a poor schizophrenic person. Most of the homeless people have mental problems. I'm sad for them. And they're like talking to the wind. And
they spot you or something.
And then they turn and go, "You're my father, I hate you." And it's some drooling 80-year-old guy. You're not mad at him. You feel sorry for him. You lock your doors. You drive on past. But it doesn't like morally. The leftists, this happens like maybe every 5 or 6 times I go out to eat now. They'll walk over and go, "Boo, everyone hates you. F you, Alex." And I'll go, "Thank you." And they'll go, "Oh yeah, knock your drink over."
But everyone doesn't hate you.
Well, no, but exactly. They want to make you think.
Yeah.
It's all with them because everything with them is peer pressure.
Yeah.
And everything is their little bots and their fake liberalism. Yeah. And so they want to tell you you're not cool because most of them weren't cool in school. I've learned most modern liberals
being
were
social
nerds.
Justice warriors. It's well, we all know how what Rush Limbaugh says about why people end up being feminists. It doesn't take a genius to work out why the boys end up being social justice warriors. Why a lot of these people end up with the politics they do, and end up behaving as they do. They're empowered by media, by Hollywood, by academia to be the bullies they never were in school.
Exactly, and. That's the thing, though, is that they think I care about fake peer pressure that doesn't exist. They're trying to echo some cyber
version of popularity that doesn't matter to you.
Exactly. Well, they're trying to echo some cyberspace synthetic popularity that they believe they're part of in the third dimension at me. And I know that the last 100 people just shook my hand. Literally, it's like 100 to 1 to the one person that screams Russian scum, Russian
So I get the
scum.
same thing.
And then I go over to them and I go, "Come here, come here." And they go, "No, F you." And they're all, and I'm like, come on over here.
See, it's so weird because I do the same thing. And I'll be like, "Wait, let's have a conversation." They're like, "No." And I said, "Well,"
I'm like, "Please, on camera, tell me how I'm a Russian spy or how I'm a KKK."
explain. And I've had people come up to me, and I've been with boyfriends, and you know my taste in men. And I'm like, and they're calling me a white supremacist, and I'm like, oh, I can't even.
Well, that's the new thing where they just scream racist at everybody, and it's like some magic word they're using. And the problem is, though, all of their racist rhetoric is. I grew up, in middle class neighborhoods, never really heard any racist stuff. It is producing in some white people kind of a classic racism, which isn't good because it's meant to divide us all like we're in a prison and the government's the warden. And the left is hyping race so bad that if you're not mentally sophisticated, you start getting into it.
I think the whole culture's hyping race. It's not just the government, is it? It's Hollywood too, and so academia. It seems like the whole of establishment culture is dividing people with identity politics. And inevitably, people only know what they learn. They're only brought up how they behave how they're trained to behave. And if you tell young kids, college students, there's a black student union, there's a feminist society on campus, there's this, there's that, and at the same time you tell them, but straight white men are the devil and poison and the oppressors of history, they're going to think, well, first of all, that doesn't jive with my experience, and is that really true about myself, and where's my special group, Whereas I think what I get from you, one of the things that perhaps we have in common is that you're a classical liberal who believes a lot more in ideas than identity, and you want people to unite around.
Exactly. If somebody's got great food, I don't care if they're gay, straight, black or white or Asian, I'm going to eat there. If their music's good, I'm going to go to their concert. Yeah. I'm into individuals and their brains and the great experience of true diversity versus identity politics that creates these reservoirs that they control, that I'm supposed to only paint with these colors. I'm supposed to only see through these maps. Well, that's mental slavery. That's orthodoxy. I don't want to see the world through a priesthood that tells me how to think. I want to interface with the universe myself.
Yeah, like the cultural appropriation thing, where they say, if you can't wear a kimono if you didn't grow up, being in some way that is never quite specified.
Or they say it's insulting to dress up in a Japanese kimono for a party. No, it's fun. And then you eat Japanese food, or you want Mexican food, and it's fun to wear sombreros and drink tequila. You're not stereotyping Mexicans as drunk tequila drinkers. The point is, you want to get drunk on tequila, and then have fun. I mean, it's.
Let me ask you about Trump. Trump is the reality TV president. He has brought entertainment industry dynamics into the Oval Office. Some people love it, some people hate it. I kind of like it. I don't really hear anybody talk about the Kardashians anymore, but I do hear people say, like, what did Stephen Miller say to Jim Acosta at the briefing today? He's kind of turned the White House into an entertainment spectacle in a way that politics wasn't before. Is there a dimension of that in what you do at InfoWars? You know, bringing in the entertainment, because you're on camera persona, very high energy. You have some sort of rhetorical and metaphoric things that you lean on sometimes that we talked about in your show earlier. Some of the language you use is strong, but completely reasonable when taken metaphorically. You know. Is there an element of bringing in that sort of reality, spectacle, entertainment? Are you? I suppose what I'm getting at is how consciously aware are you of the entertainment element of what you do versus here's what you've got to hear, America?
I should try to be more entertaining. I get so serious most of the time that
you perceive yourself as being too serious.
Yeah, and then quite frankly, when I am being goofy and stuff, it's because it's gallows humor. I'm naturally that way. I want to do that.
Yeah.
And so if there's anything fake, it's not so much fake. I'm not as serious a person in my daily life in person as I am on air. But this is a serious topic, a whole serious thing. So I tend to get too serious. Whereas you can be serious and joke around. Then with that chemistry, we kind of had fun. It was real.
We kind of amped each other up a little bit.
Exactly.
I think we were enjoying each other's company.
Sure, but I mean, exactly. None of it's fake. It's all a real expression. But yes, I
wasn't suggesting it's fake. I think people wonder sort of how conscious you are of. Let's say, for instance, because you have a big meme ecosystem around you, and you obviously enjoy that. You're aware of it, and you like it, right? The kind of
because I hate taking myself serious.
Right, that's what I think.
It's fun. It's fun to be made fun of.
That's what I think I'm getting at, because people sometimes ask me, is this fake? Is this a put on persona? No, I just don't take myself as seriously as you. That's always my answer to that question. It's the same for you.
Exactly. And look, studying history, before politics was entertainment, the local stump where people stood up and spoke, the main gladiatorial event was being politically involved so that you could be freer. Yeah. Then different propagandists came out with programs where they kind of merged politics with Hollywood, Edward Bernays and others, to then basically transfer the entertainment from politics onto sports, onto movies, onto TV, onto radio.
And you get careerist politicians who become boring and too polished.
Exactly. They become boring and polished on purpose to make it an elite sport so that the general public, the unwashed, isn't involved in interfacing, because the elites complained in the 1890s in major news articles, the Americans are the highest literacy level, even though there's some coal miner. They're really into politics. It's a sport here. The elites can't take over because of this American system. We've got to make it boring. Mm-hmm. And so that's basically what they did. And so Trump is making it cool to be grassroots again. He's making it cool to be counterculture. He's making it cool to get back to what Americana was. Trump's very Americana.
And I think there's a reason people like him and you and me, and the three of us are very different. But there's a reason that we're all liked, I think, and it's that we're not perfect. We're kind of scruffy, rough around the edges in some ways,
But real.
Real, yeah, real. We mean what we say.
People instinctively can look. People know a commercial, even if it's got top actors. They know it's fake. You look at something, you know when it's real. I mean, they know we're real. That's why they constantly say we're not real. That's why MSM keeps saying he's an actor, or you're a fake, or you're a fraud. Well, what does it matter who we really are? What we say is what matters. When Trump breaks the back of political correctness, when Trump defends the borders, when Trump crushes ISIS, when Trump gets $4 trillion in the stock market, like Christ said, judge a tree by its fruits. You believe in Christ or not, don't you judge a tree by its fruits? Like if a tree, you eat something off a tree, it kills you, you don't eat off the tree. If something produces good stuff for everybody, is it good or is it bad? And I think right there is what we're talking about with Trump. And he is the underdog. And they're trying to make him incompetent. They're trying to demonize him. They're trying to destroy him because they are the scum that while we were asleep came in and took over the political process.
The genie that won't go back in the bottle that Trump has unleashed is that preference cascade.
It's just like they have these fake polls where he's 15 points behind on election day, but he wins. Yeah. And they've got fake polls now saying he's behind. They're fake. They admit, most people even in those polls saying, no, I don't like Trump. It's because they're embarrassed on the telephone. They don't want to say they support him, so that's what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. But the dam is breaking now. And the dam is breaking because people are realizing that we tell the truth more often than they do.
And like you said during the break, saying we're Nazis doesn't work, saying we're racist. So now John Oliver last week had like a child product that's like private labeled from a Whole Foods company. Now I guess Bezos owns it, you might take it away from me. but we private label, just a 30-year-old product that's got herbs and stuff that calm children down. And he said, oh, you want to knock children out so you can basically, that's all they've got. But
That's the implication, yeah. So,
but then that's all they've got left.
White supremacists didn't work, so they're going for pedophile, something I know well. Let's talk, you mentioned about sort of judging by the fruit. I mentioned on your show today, the history has this sort of habit. If you wait long enough, Alex Jones seems to get proven right about a remarkable number of things. And the classic clip that they always play, trying to, unsuccessfully, I think, paint you as a figure of fun in the way that they tried to do with Trump, again, failing, is the frogs. And you're
let's talk about the frogs.
Given that, well, look, let's just
the WB frog is gay.
But look, the WB frog does look gay. But you're in one of your riffs, and it's very. I've watched the clip because I went back and watched it. It's very clear from context that you're in a riff. I just don't want stuff in the water that turns the frog gay. You're talking about chemicals and all the rest of it. Now it makes perfect sense in context. Obviously, it's funny because you have a very animated manner when you wrench it out of context. But what do I read in the Daily Mail this week? Well, it turns out contraceptive pills and cleaning. Have you seen this? Contraceptive pills and cleaning products that are flushed down the toilet are turning 1 in 5 male river fish transgender. You wait long enough, Alex Jones gets proven right again. Now, I'm not saying right about everything, and I don't think you'd be offended by me saying that we disagree on some things, and some things have been have not turned out to be right. But let me ask about that, because I think you and I both have an experience, I think, of tumbling out of internet culture and into the real world, in a way, in the last couple of years.
Exactly, like you're saying things not knowing you're totally being paid attention to, and the aftermath later
and not being paid attention to in a particular kind of way. It's like if you're going on a sort of performance riff.
Yeah, the general topic's true, but then there's some satire. You've got to watch out because now the MSM's watching. They're going to present it as if you meant it.
Yeah, exactly. So they pick the most ridiculous bit of the riff of the bit that you're doing, and they pull it out and they say you think that the frogs are turning gay or something because it sounds as ridiculous as possible. Let me ask you a serious question though. Is there anything from an earlier period in your career that now you have the stature and prominence and success that you do, and your organization is growing, your platform is growing, you have influence on the president clearly and influence with his voters, you undoubtedly helped to put him in office. Is there anything earlier in your career that you somewhere you wish you hadn't gone or something you wish you hadn't said? Is there anything that you might have done differently if you had realized that people were going to start behaving like this? Or there may not be. You may say, you know what, screw them. I don't care. Is there anything?
Well, yeah, knowing how the media misrepresents, would I have done things different, which I do now? Because sometimes they'll attack me and say something that's not true, and then I'll quote what they said that wasn't true, and they'll use that quote as if I said it. So I'm more careful now.
Sort of this Kafka-esque cycle where they use your debunking of them to claim a fresh round.
Yes, they use where you say, I did not say this.
And then they use everything after I did not say.
I did, literally. And so they've also, I can't show weakness, which I wasn't trying to do before. I was trying to be journalistic, and now I realize I can't do it because here's an example. Before Pizzagate became Pizzagate, I told my crew, and I said on air, this is BS. This is a honeypot to distract off real sex crimes. Stop covering it. And I went on air and said, I don't think there's anything going on in this pizza place. They then took that as weakness and said I'd created it and said that I needed to be sued and all these things.
Merely because you'd spoken about it. And it's the reason.
Merely because I'd covered news. But here's what happened. You had Podesta in the emails, and you had Wiener and the sexting the young girl and all this stuff. And we're breaking this, and it's in the news, and it's in the WikiLeaks, and there's weird spirit cooking and Aleister Crowley stuff. And we're not saying they're killing kids. This is creepy. Then I saw the New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, about a week later going, at this pizza place, the alt-right says they're killing kids in a basement. And I'd gone on vacation for a week, and I'm on vacation, and I see us covering it, and I call my folks, and I go, I bet there's not even a basement in there. pizza's code words for child porn and stuff, according to FBI files. They're diverting onto a pizza place. You watch, it's a honeypot. Shut this down. I get back, I say, folks, it's a diversion of what's in the WikiLeaks to say now that everything's this pizza place. I said it's a diversion. The media then took that as weakness and then said, oh, Jones is behind all this and he's already retracted. Then a guy goes in there with a gun, supposedly shoots a hole in the ceiling, and then they all say Jones caused this separate deal, Sandy Hook. I'm genuinely looking at Sandy Hook, and my listeners, the one thing I've learned is not be bullied by your listeners. Yeah. They got really pissed when that happened 5 years ago or whatever and said, Alex, it's all fake, it's all actors. And I said, no, there's real school shootings, and this guy's on Prozac drugs, and he wasn't supposed to legally get a gun. And they're like, no, it's staged. Because there was green screen with Anderson Cooper. And I'm like, yeah, but Anderson Cooper's fake locations before. It doesn't mean it's all fake. Yeah. And so I looked at both sides and had debates. And then the media took the fact that I finally said about 3 years ago, no, I think kids died there. They then went, oh, look, he created it and he's backtracking on it. And then even when I told Megyn Kelly, I said, I think the kids died there. She wouldn't put it in the piece. Because now it's almost like I killed the kids. It's like he's the guy that didn't care about dead kids. He's the guy that said all this when I never said it or did it. And then again, they edit the tapes, and it's the same thing with the whole situation with Pizzagate. I said, I don't know in a live piece. I said, I don't know if Hillary hurt kids or killed kids with this, Podesta email stuff. But I said, what I do know is she funded the Arab Spring. She funded the Libya disaster. She funded ISIS taking over Syria, as President Trump has said. And they killed hundreds of thousands of people. They sold tens of thousands of people into sex slavery. Hillary Clinton is responsible for this. Megyn Kelly on Fox edited it together where I said, Hillary's killing kids in a basement. I'd said, I don't know if she's doing that. It's probably made up, but I know she did that. They edited that with audio. There was video. They edited it together to say Hillary's killing kids in the bottom of a pizza place. See, at a certain point, I go, would I do things differently? Yeah, I would, but you can't do things differently when they're going to take this interview and edit it. The public has to come to their own realization that if you see cut, and back and forth and stuff, when you see jump cuts, you need to go look at it or not believe what you've seen.
Yeah.
I know I'm ranting. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I think it's very. I think that's reasonable. The thing for me, I think what you do is process journalism, and I think that the only difference between what you do and what some people on the left do is that you have the wrong politics. Process journalism, let's say in the tech industry, like TechCrunch is a blog that covers Silicon Valley, like funding stories and all the rest of it. They're completely brazen about publishing rumor as fact, publishing rumors in the investment community as news. Right? Terrible track record. Founder Michael Arrington, completely unashamed about it.
Which is really pump and dump being hidden.
Yeah, well, yes, yeah, that's a whole other thing, but sure, it is. And they're completely brazen about it. And he invented this whole kind of thing. Well, it's called process journalism. We just do what we know at the time. And this is, the never wrong for long principle in 24-hour rolling news.
Sure, we jump on it and then we change it as we're...
and we'll update it as and when we get...
Well, I'll be honest, that's what we do. We're live on air. We don't know. We look at the available facts, we speculate, and we say when we're speculating.
The thing that I'm interested in is the hypocrisy and is the double standards in all things. That's what I'm always looking for. It seems to me that, okay, InfoWars has got some things wrong, like every other journalistic organization in the country, everyone. But like Breitbart, InfoWars seems to be, and I think they're very different organizations, but it seems to be under a unique kind of scrutiny, where when you get something wrong or you adjust a previous statement, it becomes like it's like a meltdown. It's like a thermonuclear bomb goes off. Suddenly it's some massive thing. But when CNN doesn't just get things wrong, but it seems to me tells the public lies.
And gets caught in emails lying.
And gets caught in emails. The rest of the press doesn't just turn a blind eye, but comes out to defend them.
What you've hit is
comes out to defend CNN for knowingly lying to its viewers when, as best I can work out, as best I can tell, and I've hung around you a little bit, we've met a couple of times, been on the show now, I believe that you are sincere. I believe that you're a sincere, earnest, and decent person. The best I can tell is that you do your equivalent of 24-hour rolling news coverage. And you freewheel, and you spitball, and you say what's going on, and you say it like you see it, you look at what's out there, and you have a sort of continuous rolling adjustment attitude, just like the rest of 24-hour news ecosystem elsewhere.
Exactly, and we respond
But
to
you're
our
not.
listeners.
But you're not judged the same at all.
No, and I mean, that's really it, is that CNN and all these guys get caught lying on purpose.
But they do it on purpose. You don't do it on purpose.
and then
I don't believe you lie to your viewers on purpose.
No, we've certainly made plenty of mistakes, and
I mean, I'm not saying I've watched, more than maybe 30, 40 shows, right? But I have watched 30 or 40 shows. I don't believe that you lie to your viewers on purpose.
well, you were there with me today.
I do think CNN does.
Oh, well, they've been caught. I mean, they're in the WikiLeaks, fixing the debates, fixing polls, having Hillary direct them on what they're supposed to do. It's supposed to be game over at that point. And then now you've got CNN caught in all these new lies and new deception. But see, they know that. So now all they are is disruptors. And now all they do is fights with those of us that are still important, people that still, have some pull with the public. And they try to get a debate going with us to give themselves some type of pertinence, some type of value. And I think that whole system for them is basically coming to an end. But
I think so too. I think very often people accuse their enemies of exactly the opposite of what they know them really to be. And I also think that people accuse others of what they most fear might be true about themselves, which is, I think, at the heart of the whole fake news thing. The reason that the left invented fake news is that they were becoming aware of the fact that they were lying to people.
And now CNN says stop using it.
Yeah, no. Oh, this has backfired on us because you've realized the trick we're up to, so please stop using this expression fake news.
No.
Now, you have been accused of being insincere and being an actor and being fake with people. Does it hurt?
No, because I'm so sincere that they have to attack my strength, just like they did in the custody trial for my children. The media was all there, called in by the lawyers on the other side, and they wanted to introduce some video from like 6, 7 years ago where I dressed up like the Joker and said, take Prozac, drink the fluoride, it's going to kill you, you're going to see pretty colors. And I acted totally psychotic. And my lawyer said, this is inadmissible. This is like Jack Nicholson playing the part of the Joker and then them saying that's who he is. Clearly, I was being an actor in that role. Anyone could watch it and tell I was dressed up like the Joker. That's not Alex Jones. That's me having some fun.
Alex Jones playing a character.
Yeah.
And they're taking the words of the character as being your sincere statement.
Well, then they tried to say those are his sincere statements. So we said, no, I'm being an actor. They go, oh, it's all an act. And it's like saying, no, if I'm in a college play, playing Captain Ahab on Moby Dick, I'm not really a captain.
I'm not really obsessed with a whale.
But I'm also not faking the rest of my life. Like when I'm being an actor or saying a joke, saying, that I want to marry Glenn Beck like we were doing on the show, that's clearly joke time. But then when I read a Wall Street Journal article saying that they've got a grand jury impaneled against Trump, that's real. And I'm showing you the article. Yeah. So again, they play these games hoping that their audience isn't paying attention.
It doesn't affect you emotionally.
No, it doesn't. It frustrates me that there's people this corrupt that would continue to organize themselves like this.
Seems to be more fuel for your fire. Maybe it doesn't upset you personally that people would say that about you, but it adds more grist to the mill.
Exactly. I want to go show where they're liars.
Right, and it just makes you even more determined. And this, I think, is the Trump instinct. It's the Breitbart instinct. It's this new populist, nationalist, fearless revolution against the cultural commissars.
Well, exactly. The cultural commissars.
So what we all have in common, as different as we all are, is that defiance and that determination.
Defiance is key, and leadership. Realizing we're promoting Magna Carta, Renaissance, 1776, what works. The big, sexy, big-titted hit that Robert Duvall talks about in Network. We got a big-titted hit. I mean, America, freedom, thousands of choices of everything, incredible diversity, true liberalism, this mosaic of cultures coming together and the best coming out of each group and mixing together. That's true liberalism, not a bunch of weirdos managing all these groups and making them all neurotic and fighting with each other. What's sexy is America, is the diversity. And people go, oh, well, this wasn't diverse in America's history. Well, it was a lot more diverse than anybody else. That, they come to the most diverse, transcendent group knowing we have a conscience and knowing we're liberal, and then try to make us feel bad going, oh, look, you did all these bad things. Knowing we'll go, oh my God, we did those things. Instead of saying, you're the best there ever was, let's take this to the next level.
This is a bit like
I'm an American cultist. I'm a Renaissance cultist. I'm a cult member of freedom.
I like that.
I mean, I'm so liberal growing up my whole life that I don't even think about what color somebody is or what their sexual preferences, what they're doing. It's what they actually produce, what they stand for, and how they treat me. I don't even look at it. I mean, I was growing up in Dallas, not even understanding that a group of racist black guys would come over and try to beat me up because I was white. I just thought those were mean black guys, or a group of redneck guys because they were a gang of white guys and I was with a hot girl would come up and try to beat me up. That's how humans act in gangs. Now through sociology, anthropology, psychology, I can look back and see what actually happened. But I was such a purist then of just being a human that I did not, as a tribalist, think that these were tribal groups attacking me, because to me they were just other humans. They were bad people, but I didn't see them for what color they were. Yeah. Only later did I see they were operating in a gang mentality. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. You've had plenty of experience watching how the media operates to be skeptical of them. But I sense in you, in addition to that, a sort of deep antipathy toward authority figures in general. Perhaps a skepticism about people who think they know better than you do how you should lead your life. Whether it's academics, journalists, Hollywood producers, you seem to have a sort of default position, and I share it with you, to be clear, I have the same thing. You have a default position of skepticism, and you tend to look for ulterior motives with any authority figure. And I share this with you. And I don't know why I am like that, but do you have any insight as to why you might be like that? Is there an event or a person in your life that might have made you that way? Because it's what's made you so interesting to watch, because you're always immediately looking, as any great journalist is really, you're always immediately looking for the story behind the story. When I watch InfoWars, what I see you doing is taking this and then, right, okay, but how did this come to pass? Who's responsible for this? What are the inner workings? You're always looking, a couple of layers beyond the surface story.
Well, sure. Why are we being presented this? But
what I was interested in is how you became that way. Is there something that you can identify that made you so skeptical by default of authority figures?
I think studying history, it's not that authority overall is bad, it's that it has to be watched. Sometimes authority can do great things, sometimes authority can do really bad things, but authority is powerful, it's dangerous. And I wasn't really a drug user in high school, and then I would see, and I would see police department doing drug sweeps at the school that I'd seen dealing drugs 2 weeks before at a party. And I would speak out against it, and then the cops got really upset at me and stuff. So,
you had that kind of defiance then?
Well, I mean, sure. And I knew about government drug dealing. It's not saying I'm saying all government's dealing drugs. I just knew that a lot of times there's a story behind a story. There's something going on that's not just on the surface, and that anybody that's successful in business or in the stock market or with women or anywhere understands the surface is never what's going on, and that really all of success is about understanding cycles, systems, and different layers to things. And if you can get to the bottom of something, then you can master it.
Like economists will always look at incentives, why, not what people do, but why they behave in predictable ways.
Exactly, and then seeing mass movements in behavior, and then mastering that is manipulating the behavior for the greater outcome.
And this is what we're talking about with the preference cascades and preference falsification, about, sort of the delusion of the population.
And we've got the entire Hollywood MSM corporate whore combine trying to suppress nationalism, free market, Renaissance. It's classical liberalism. They're calling themselves liberalism, trying to suppress it. And because the opposition to that was called conservative, even though it's just as bad with the rhinos and people, it's still exploding and people are going to it, even though it's far from perfect, because it's seen as the opposition. And Trump understands he's riding a wave of that populism, which he supported his whole life. So it's a hell of a time to be alive. And the establishment is whistling past the graveyard if they think they're going to turn this around.
I mean, I think that's sort of unarguably true. And you look at stories that one of the things I always find interesting is the stories they try to stamp out, irrespective of whether they turn out to be true or not, irrespective of what turns out to be.
Tells you what they're scared of.
Yeah, it does.
They don't want Seth Rich looked into.
The Seth Rich is exactly.
You got Cy Hirsch coming out saying he talked to the FBI.
Seth Rich is what I was going to bring up.
That they said that he was the WikiLeaker. You have WikiLeaks basically saying it, and they're acting like Seth Rich never even died in the media.
Right, and they will ridicule and demean and belittle and try to stamp on anyone who invokes his name, while wall-to-wall coverage is being broadcast about a Russia conspiracy for which there is still no evidence.
Exactly. You got a guy shot in the back, and you've got the top journalist in the world, and then WikiLeaks saying that he was the leaker, and then if you mention it, it's like chickens with their heads cut off. We should be going towards where the flak is. Clearly, the Seth Rich thing.
What do you think the state of America would be now if Hillary Clinton were president? How much of a mess of things do you think she'd have made by now?
Well, the truth is they say deep state is battling Trump. Deep state's just the bureaucracy, the intelligence agencies. And the truth is the deep state turned against Hillary and against the Bushes and said the people are sick of this and you guys have sold the country out. And you've got a beef with the nation and a beef with prosperity. And the deep state itself said, we want prosperity. We don't want to commit political suicide. We don't want austerity. And the deep state turned against a large part of it. The grassroots deep state, the pragmatic deep state, turned against
what kind of people are you talking about?
Mainly the folks that actually are mid-level and low-level, but also some high-level, that actually do the work, do the analysis, do the killing. Almost all the people that actually kill people.
So you're talking about intelligence agencies?
Actual field operators, actual assassins, actual black ops are like almost completely Americana pro-Trump. Yeah. It's only like the weird pinhead power guys.
No, I mean, my security detail, all former Navy SEALs, love the guy. Love the guy.
Yeah,
he can do no wrong.
There's not anyone.
They love him. And these are not stupid people. These are some of the smartest people you'll ever meet. They're brilliant. Like, they're ruthless,
Because they recognize Trump is the man in the arena.
They love him.
Trump is the man in the arena. He really is, and he's bringing the prosperity. Yep. He's up against, this is what real men are into.
And it's funny because, they're not meatheads. You're like, my security.
Cy Hirsch is cheering in these recordings, going, Trump's a great guy. I just wish he wasn't how much danger he's in, and I wish he had better advisors. He's a super liberal. Because it's like, Trump's real. And even though I don't agree with all what he's doing, it's so real. I'm sorry, go ahead. You were saying
No, I just, these people are not meatheads. These people they're like the elite of the, Navy SEALs like this.
Yeah, you got guys with PhDs trying to get into that.
And they love Trump. They love the guy. Let me ask you a naughty question, mischievous question. I've looked into some of this stuff. This is kind of your wheelhouse, and I just want to know because I'm fascinated by this. Clinton murders, like, there's so many.
Arkansas.
This is one of the things that you go down a rabbit hole when you start looking into this on the internet, and you get so drawn into this stuff that you end up kind of like you don't know which way is left and right and up and down.
Here's the deal. They had Fahmy Malek as the county Arkansas medical examiner at the town where all the kids were getting killed. Anybody that asked any questions got killed at this Mena airport. Then he's made the medical examiner of the whole state. People were shot with machine guns, their arms and legs cut off in trash bags. He would rule them suicides. So that's where the term Arkansas came from. I don't. Maybe he was blind. I don't know. I'm sure Fahmy's a great guy. Rest in peace. I'm told he died a few years ago.
Maybe he was blind. I think if she were president, one or the two of us would have had a horrible automobile accident.
Well, that's a good question. God. In fact, we should do whole shows. Like Rand Paul, I think, is like the best guy in the Senate. Drudge has said that. And he said, I wake up every day thanking God, Hillary's not there. She had all these wars planned. She wanted to go after every enemy. She said she wanted to shut down the independent press. Yeah. So I'll ask you, you've been doing the interview, what does the audience think would have happened? That's a great show topic if Hillary had gotten in, because that's what I'm saying. The deep state didn't turn against her because they didn't want power and control. It's kind of like Hitler's general staff turned against him the last year. It wasn't because they were good. It's because they realized that he was about to burn the whole country down.
So as we come to the end, I want to talk about a group that did not leave Hillary by the roadside. They stuck with her right through to the end, and it's the mainstream media. You have been on the front lines along with a lot of other people of, well, I think you played a significant role in undermining public confidence in the mainstream media. It's my view that they deserve it, and that really they did it to themselves, and that if they told the truth...
Exactly. They blame me. I would love that laurel.
yeah, like I would
pointing this out. It's not hard.
I know exactly. Like I would love to take the credit, but you guys, I don't think Trump did it to them. I don't think.
No, they did it. They did it. They did it.
I think.
If they'd have run Joe Biden for all his criminal activity, he comes off like a regular guy. There's something genuine, like he said. You know, everybody hates Hillary and she's a total fake, but vote for her. They all yay. They wouldn't cheer for her because he's like street level. He's a real guy. I think Biden may have beaten Trump. But the elite want a robot like Hillary because they're similar. They want that coldness. But anyways, what were you saying?
Well, I was just going to ask you, do you think there's a sort of extinction level event coming? Do you think there's going to be a moment? And is it going to be precipitated maybe by something bad that CNN does?
Is there any Waterloo for the fake media?
Is there a Waterloo for the fake news media?
Respectfully, I think the Waterloo's already happened. If you look at this and you look at mainstream media, they've already basically collapsed. It's just that the big corporate powers don't want the facade to go down and admit the defeat. It's like Piers Morgan took a show from 10 million viewers to 1 million viewers. Yeah. They didn't want to announce they'd failed and that people actually liked Larry King. It was just that cable viewership was going down overall. So they said, oh, he'll do a monthly show for a year, a magazine show, kind of like they're putting Megyn Kelly out to pasture. They never admit defeats. Those are hidden. But they've already had their Waterloo. And so we have to ask ourselves, what are they now? They're just a disruptive force.
So your argument is that the legitimacy of the media is gone, and we're in this kind of Walking Dead period where they're being propped up by big bank accounts, but without really any legitimacy with the public. There's certainly plenty of evidence.
You've crystallized it. That's it. And even big old magazine shows that had some good production value. You tune into Dateline NBC. If it was a show about a rock star or a show about New Zealand, I'm glued. It's high production value, really entertaining, really interesting. It's the politics that makes you leave because it's fake. It's not that folks are against politics, it's the fakeness of their politics. So they've been found, like in Megyn Kelly's show, like one part has a bunch of viewers about New Zealand or about some whiskey brewery or about some hockey team, but as soon as it goes political, it goes down. Now, when we do politics, it goes up because people see it as real. It's that people directly aren't even against mainstream media. They're against it being political because they recognize it's a fraud. And so that's what they have to come to grips with, is that the people have completely divorced them. MSM could say the sky was blue at high noon. People would go outside to make sure it was true.
Yeah. I think that's true. I think you're right about that. Okay, few last brief questions. First of all about Trump, and then a couple of last things about you. I like to do this at the end of my interviews, just a little sort of thought experiment challenge kind of thing. Summarize the Trump presidency in 3 words.
Revolutionary, trailblazing, rebirth.
Do you think he should fire Mueller?
He should have fired Mueller a long time ago. He was put in by Rosenstein, the whole thing staged. They admit it's political. 99.8% of their donations are Democrats. Everything they accuse him of, Hillary's done, and now he's impaneled a grand jury in the District of Columbia of hand-picked politicos. And
it's too late now, huh?
Yeah, Trump keeps thinking he could just deliver on the economy and that the public would love that. And they want to start his criminal indictment, move that to the House, and in the midst of the investigation, kill him.
You think they want to kill Trump?
I get why on the air earlier you're like, oh, well, I'll go with you. They want to remove him but not kill him. They're saying they want to kill him because they need to say that to get the intelligence operators to decide, well, we'll follow orders. This is about to happen. They need to get, see, this isn't known, but to defend the United States, a program was started during the Cold War where they took Army officers and other people and they sheep dip them into domestic intelligence operations. And so there's a whole shadow army of 100,000 people at any one time. Delta Force is just one manifestation of that, that are operatives, hit teams in every town. And then now they've been training those hit teams the last 5-6 years to kill veterans, kill conservatives, kill police chiefs, kill mayors, and that finally woke them up. When they were training to kill Ron Paul and kill me and kill Donald Trump, people were, and kill, Matt Drudge and everybody, I mean, literally, I've taught people that have been trained on it. That was the final wake up that, oh my God, there's a real takeover, Alex Jones is right. So we almost have to thank the globalists for doing this, causing this awakening, but they've got this whole Praetorian Guard here ready to move against the American people. But what the globalists don't get is we already reached those people before they did. And almost none of them are going to go along with the program. So if the globalists are dumb enough to try this 7 days in May, I think it's going to be their Waterloo. I think it's going to be their last stand.
Who's your political hero?
This is not an ass-kicking or ass-kissing contest. But I have to say, because I've lived it and watched it and know the facts, Donald Trump's my political hero because he's delivered common sense nationalism, prosperity, stood up against the deep state, and has been so attacked that I'm a fellow traveler, to use a communist term. I have experienced the hate he's experienced, but at a lesser level. And I have not seen other people that are willing to take those attacks.
Just absorb the fire.
Just absorb it. So you have to admire him. But other than that, it'd have to be, somebody like George Washington or the folks that were in England that got slavery banned in most of the world, even though the West is accused of creating slavery. You can say what you want about Gandhi, but he stood up against the British Empire and freed hundreds of millions of people. I mean, Martin Luther King, said bring everybody together, regardless of color. It's about ideas. It's about what you do in your life. A great free market speech.
Controversial position now. Martin Luther King's...
And I really admire him because I've actually watched and listened to his speeches. It's like, I inherently agree with all this.
To the progressive left, looking at the contents of someone's character instead of the color of their skin is a controversial proposition.
But as a business owner...
It would say they would all...
I want to hire people that get the job done. I don't care what color they are.
To a liberal, and I don't think this is pushing it too far, and you and I cover the crazy end.
Martin Luther King is a bad person, according to them. I didn't say that. Don't edit that.
If you took his name away from some of the statements he's made, and if you told them that a Republican politician had said it, they'd call it racist.
That gave me an idea. People have actually gone out with JFK quotes and had Democrats say they're racist. I think we should go out with Martin Luther King say, Trump said that. Is that racist?
See if campus feminists say that Martin Luther King is racist. It's certainly a great video idea. Last couple of questions, just a few light.
I like them all. I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, me too. What is a habit that you have, either a daily habit or a routine that you have that people might be surprised by? Is there something about what you do outside of the show when you're off air that people might find unusual or surprising? Because when I asked you earlier about what hobbies you have, it was this huge catalog of amazing things that I believe that you do all of them because you seem to have a limitless capacity for work and self-education and experimentation, limitless energy. But is there anything, and that was kind of an answer that I thought you might give me, and I believe you. But is there anything that people might be surprised by? In your
honestly, I tried to swear it off like 5 years ago, but I've cut back. I really love people that attack me, and it's not like some masochist thing.
But people are going to know that about you. They're going to predict that about you.
But it's so funny.
But that's your guilty pleasure. That's really how you get off, is people coming for you.
To be honest, I almost masturbate to it. I don't know why. I don't understand it. Because some of it's true. But here's the thing. Someone gushing and saying how good I am, I know I'm not, so I can't stand it.
Because it feels fake to you, and you're about your truth.
But it's like...
But somebody really coming for you kind of...
Someone saying outrageous BS is like, I guess I already feel guilty about things in my life, so that hearing pure BS kind of like feels good because your brain knows it's bull.
Because they're coming for stuff.
I guess I'm my own biggest critic.
Yeah.
Literally. Because I got him a mess in many ways. Okay, a hobby is eating too much, drinking too much. I mean, those are bad hobbies I do. I mean, these are great questions because it's like making me psychoanalyze.
Well, I'm just interested in you because I think you're one of the most interesting people in America, and I don't think anyone ever asks you interesting questions. I don't think Megyn Kelly asked you interesting questions. I don't think anyone in any interview I've ever read or ever watched with you asks you interesting questions about you. And I find you fascinating. I enjoy your...
Well, you're fascinating too.
Well, thank you. I
knew you were coming in, but everybody's like in a huge buzz. You were coming in. All these people calling me.
Well, thank you.
I like the fact you bounce back from all their BS.
Well, I think that it's something that we have in common. We have a few things in common.
Because I heard what you said. You were taking bad things that happened to you and making it a joke and transcending it. That's your personal story. You're not the thing they say that really they are.
I think that's probably true. And I think one of the things that one of the reasons maybe that we're relaxed around one another and we can have such fun on air as we did is that we both have that kind of instinct that, nothing's going to take you down. Like if you want to come for me, you better leave me in 6 different pieces, in 6 different coffins, buried on different continents, like blowtorched, flat.
Exactly.
You better leave me in the dust on all 5.
I forget who said it, but knowing thyself is real knowledge. And so I know my negatives, I know my problems, and there are plenty. Anybody that's on a power trip thinks they've got all the answers, that person's going towards destruction. Fools always fall off the edge of the cliff. But that's why we're confident, because it's like all they ever hit us with is BS. Anything real I get hit with, I can then try to make myself better. Like when I get real criticisms from family or friends, I'm like, you're right. But it's never genuine. It's always some comical twisting. And it's incredibly entertaining, though, because it's like the shit they come up with is like, who the hell can sit around and come up with this?
You've answered my main question, which is what is your guilty pleasure? And it sounds like it's the same as mine. All right. Well, one last question, and this is a serious one, and I do want an honest answer from you about this. How do you feel about the cancellation of Megyn Kelly's show?
I'm actually sad because watching her burn up isn't entertaining.
It's not as much fun as you thought it would.
I never showed you the text message. Maybe later we get a shot of it. And again, I've never taped anybody in 22 years, but she calls Nico up on the weekend. The producer does. It's on a Saturday. And goes, she wants to talk to Alex right now. And Nico calls me. I'm like at the gym in the morning. I go, okay. And then sure enough, I call the number, and she's like, oh my God, you're so handsome. You're so incredible. And I go, hold on just a moment. I'm like digging around the car. I have a backup cell phone because I didn't even have the app on my phone to record a phone call. I've got the regular app to record. So I start recording her, and she's like, oh God, I'm obsessed with you and all this stuff. Because I knew she wasn't. And
but she's trying to...
She was worse than like a strip dancer at a topless club sitting on your lap saying she wants to marry you, so she's gotten your money. I mean, it was tart level. And that's why I recorded her. I've never recorded anybody else clandestinely. But I told her in the interview, and then I told her in a text, I said, listen, you think you're going to destroy me, you've burned yourself down. And she did, because she doesn't get, I could have done a terrible job, which I probably did overall, let her interview me for like 10 hours here. It doesn't matter, because they're so discredited. The fact that they set themselves up as the establishment against me, no matter what they did, the public, talk about confirmation bias, was going to see them as the bad guy, which has got to scare them. My big, fat, ugly ass, tired after 10 hours of them taping me. They got me stumbling a few times, edited together. I mean, if they can't be...
It's the worst they can get, and they still didn't get you.
And then she went from 10 million viewers before she took over to 8 million, 6 million, to 2 million, and they canceled the show. That's half the ratings of the biggest other show they had on. Who's the...
Reruns of some other...
Who's the Yogi Bear.
So it hasn't been as much fun for you watching her crash down as you thought. I think she was as much a victim of what you're talking about as of something else that the progressive left does, which is a strategy they have to delegitimize people, to drive people from public life. And it's the reason that I have started my own imprint to publish my book and hopefully more other people's books later, and why you have built your entire an empire of your own. And it's that they attempt to paint any journalist investigating a subject with the subject's sins as a way of bullying people out of covering interesting people, as a way of scaring journalists off from covering conservatives. So they will say, why are you giving a platform to person X? When it's quite clear that person X is newsworthy and noteworthy in their own regard, right? But they try to taint the journalist with the sins of the subject, having not even seen or read the interview yet, as a way of kind of bullying establishment journalists out of covering people like you. And so half of her problem, I think, was what you were talking about. But the other half of the problem was that other people didn't want you on TV.
They wanted to bully. Of course, you're right. That was the whole story. I mean, we're talking about Megyn Kelly. You're right. 95% of it, not even the other half, was the corporate establishment even set it up to be a big PR stunt, to even burn her. She was hired to be burned, not just because she attacked Trump, to then make it about the big PR event that Alex shouldn't be on air. He should be no platformed. He's evil, and anyone that talks about him will be destroyed as well. That all went according to their plan, and so that's why I said I feel sorry for her.
You think they hired her with this episode?
Absolutely. That's why I feel sorry for her. They knew that when she went up against Trump, she took a show from 5 million viewers to 2 million. Yeah. They knew she was politically dead. They knew they were never going to finish her contract. That's why they had.
So they were hoping that she would do enough damage to you that it was worth spending the money on her.
I think that was part of it, and they just used her as a political stunt for NBC. But it just all, that's what I mean. There's already so much human instinctive knowledge, even though humanity's somewhat asleep still. Even the sleeping giant of humanity is so much more genius than them that they had no idea what they were plugging into.
It does seem to me, I mean, we'll finish this interview where we started it with, I guess, with my observation that the American media seems to be the dumbest in the world. And for so many smart people, so many people who consider themselves so highly educated, they got degrees from the right universities, they have the right kind of politics, they express the right sort of views on the sorts of subjects you're allowed to talk about in polite society. For people so smart, they don't half act dumb.
Well, that's the thing. They do everything that will blow up in their face, will create a Streisand effect, and that's why I'm so glad. Because back when that controversy with you happened, it was all made up, we were trying to get you on then, when nobody else was, and everybody was demonizing you. That's when I wanted you on more than ever, was when you were the devil, because you weren't the devil, and I wanted to expose that. But now you've been back doing a great job. Thank God you didn't just curl up because these people made up something about you. They're the fraud. We should revel, as you're doing, and celebrate this. Celebrate they banned your book. Celebrate you came back from the dead. Celebrate this, because...
Well, I think that's what we did on the show today. It felt like a celebration.
It was. Well, I'm just glad you came to interview me.
Thank you so much.